Hello guys, it's Ryan Ho, back with another video. Today we have a budget banger. This is the Incott Ghero 8K. Yes, this thing actually comes with an 8K dongle that you can purchase, and it really is actually able to do 8K polling. And honestly, the thing that shocked me the most was when I was actually using it, I had honestly no expectation at all because I have the Razer mouses over here which are capable of 8K already. But a lot of other companies aren't actually able to do 8K. Like for example, Final Mouse only has 4K still for their mouse. And we have this Beast X, which their new one has 8K, but their old one only had 4K. And these are $190, $150. Now the Razers are all about $150 as well. But this one comes in at a price of, well, 60 bucks for this mouse. They have a cheaper one that's even cheaper for 50 if you don't get the Pro version. This one is a Pro one with a bigger battery, and it also has a better coating on it as well. But you can also buy the dongle separately for about $13. But these are actually on sale right now on MetKeys for about $65 in total. So for $65, you can get 8K polling. A lot of the mouses that are capable of that are really the Razer's ones, which all cost around $150. So it's pretty ridiculous that this is actually able to do that for a much cheaper price. Now, I actually tested this with a polling tester because I can actually feel in game that it was very, very responsive. It was honestly almost the same as the Razer. Like it was just super responsive, instantaneous. Like it just, your hand moves, the mouse moves. I was honestly shocked that I actually had to do a polling tester just to make sure I wasn't going crazy, because I think the performance on this is honestly insane. It actually works and it's very, very responsive. That is the most surprising thing. Start the test, right? So here you can see it actually hits 8K, like as I'm moving the mouse. This is how you know it's actually real 8K. I can keep doing this for a long time, but you guys can get bored, but this is proof that it uses real 8K. If I stop and the mouse is not moving, it obviously fluctuates, but if you're moving, it hits 8K, right? So really, for the price and the performance that you're getting from this is already pretty insane. But let's talk about this kind of specs in greater detail, because this is really, really an interesting product. And the shape is also interesting because I had really no expectations at all. And after trying it out, I actually do kind of like the shape as well. And we'll talk about why. And also for this review, this is actually sent out by MetKeys. So thank them for sending this out. It's not going to influence my review at all. You'll definitely see a review that I'll have coming up showing you why it does not influence my review. Anyways, let's talk about this. The Ghero. So we got it nicely wrapped. We got the orange color, because why not? Orange looks nice. It's better than black and white because every single mouse is black and white. We got the little feet, so you can make sure you remove those before you use your mouse. It's not clear like some brands, it's actually blue. That way, you know, people won't make these bad reviews of something that they didn't remove. Linus Tech Tips. In here we have the extender, and then we have the little dongle. Now we also bought the 8K Hertz dongle for this one as well. Yep, just a little cube. Looks like Razer, and 8K. So for the weight of this mouse, it comes in at 65 grams, which is pretty light. It's honestly not that much heavier than the Razer Death Adder V3 Pro. This one comes in at 63. So the weight does not bother me. Obviously, some people are like the lightest weight possible, which I do have these kind of super ultra lightweight mouse. But honestly, these are still lightweight mouse. This one has the bigger battery because it's the Pro model, so it weighs a little bit more. If you don't get the Pro model, it will be a little lighter. Personally, I went for the Pro model because it had the better coating on it, as well as a bigger battery life. So the Incott uses what they call the 3395 sensor, which is capable of 8,000 Hertz, which is awesome. The shape of this mouse is really interesting. So if you look at the Incott, it's obviously a ergo mouse, but it's not exactly an ergo mouse, but it's also not really a symmetric mouse. I think a lot of people would call it an asymmetric mouse because it's somewhere in between the middle of a symmetrical and an ergo right here. But essentially, you can see that it has the comfort grooves that you're looking for in a mouse. You can see the thickness in the back. You can see that it kind of slopes. It even has this kind of thumb position, a thumb rest right here for your hand. It has that wide kind of bottom. So it definitely has that ergonomic shape, and it definitely helps kind of make it more comfortable to use your left and your right hand on this, which is really nice. But the thing that I noticed about this mouse is actually, if you look in the front and you look at the Death Adder V3 Pro, you can see how the Death Adder actually has a slope from the left side to the right side, and there's that like ergo slope, versus if you look on the Incott, it really doesn't have that. The G Hero really just is more of like a symmetrical mouse in the front, where it's kind of even and there's no type of slope at all, which I feel like it makes it almost like a hybrid type of shape. And I didn't really think I would like it as much as I did, because if you actually look at the length of this mouse, it is very similar to my final mouse. So it's definitely kind of like a small medium type of shape for sure. So I find that it fits really, really well in the palm of my hand, and like the length is perfect for me. Like I can really just grip onto this. This is what I would consider what people call a claw grip type of mouse. So really you can just like grip like this, claw it. This is pretty much how I grip the mouse. So I feel like the ideal shape for that, with its kind of low height, it really makes it a really nice and easy mouse to claw. Now, a lot of times I've been complaining about the whole entire like mouses and how they're designed and how they make sense. So here's a good example. The Incott kind of is a better shape than a lot of these symmetrical mouses, because it's already made for right-handers, and it's more optimized and more comfortable for right-handers because it has that ergonomic curves. And I feel like that really is kind of where the industry and mouses are probably going to go, because I feel like these mouses are going to be some type of asymmetrical shape. Like this is going to be some end game mouse shape, because it's just going to be more comfortable than these shapes in the long run. So I feel like this design is honestly really awesome. Now, this design does obviously differ from this Death Adder, right? Because the Death Adder is a lot more sloped, a lot taller, a lot bigger, while this is a lot smaller, and it's also a lot lower. So you can really, really claw grip this mouse. And I feel like the shape is really optimized for a smaller, kind of smaller medium type of hand. But really, I really do enjoy the shape, and I think it's really kind of different, honestly, and I really dig it. Now let's talk about the other things about this mouse, like the actual features it comes with. So the top, you can actually change the polling rate. So if you look at the bottom of this mouse, you can actually see it has these nice PTFE feet, but it also has a switch right here for off, on, and hertz. This allows you to change your polling rate on the fly, which is really cool. You can just change it at the very bottom and then click this button to change the polling rate. So the fact that you have multi-use for this button is really cool. Now, the other thing about this mouse is it actually has a coating. So this, like I said, this is the Pro model, which they call it has like a UV coating, but essentially it's like that kind of grippy, some people call it the rubberized coating. And it really is nice, like compared to like, you know, my first gen Death Adder, which has no coating at all. It's very slippery. This one has a better coating, and it's a lot cheaper, which is just crazy to me. The fact that these honestly more budget mouse have these nice coatings that this Death Adder that I bought a year ago for $150 does not. It's kind of cringe a little bit, but yeah. So this coating is actually better than this mouse. But of course, the new Razer one is actually better. This thing is the grippiest thing I've ever touched, but this one is not far behind. It's still pretty grippy, and it's pretty nice as well. So the switches this uses are mechanical switches. They're the Huano blue shell pink dots, and they're actually the same ones, I think, as the one in my final mouse. And if you actually hear what they sound like, they're pretty similar too, but they have different tensioning and different, obviously, clicking and resonance type of sound to them, but they use the same switches, which is pretty cool. And with the coating, with the nice switch implementation and the side buttons as well. So they have the two side buttons as well, if we can do the sound test. But really, this is a pretty nice sounding mouse. It's very kind of muted. It's not going for that very high pitched clicky sound. Here's the sound test. Left. And just here's the final mouse for just comparison. It's very interesting how the same switches are used. So let's talk about performance. So the buttons are very, very tight. There's not much pre or post travel for these kind of buttons. The scroll wheel itself is very smooth, very fast. You're able to kind of move it a lot. The click is not bad. These side buttons, I would say, have a little bit of a pre-travel to them. You got to push in a little bit more to kind of press down on them, but it's really not bad. They're definitely not mushy like my Logitechs are. So it's definitely a lot better than the Logitech. So the mouse quality is actually pretty good for the price for sure. The other thing is when I actually play games and perform. So in Valorant, I was honestly surprised at how fast I was able to get into the groove of things. So I like playing the training mode just to get used to the mouse first. And my second run with it, I was already hitting over plus 20 with it. So I thought that was quite impressive for this mouse because I honestly thought the shape I wouldn't like it just based off the pictures, but with it actually in my hand, I honestly like it a lot. Like I said earlier, the sensor on this thing is just so snappy. Like a lot of times when I'm aiming, I like to kind of flick a lot and then aim after I flick. So I flick and then micro adjust and aim after I flick. And that's kind of the reason why I can really tell the difference between a lot of mouses that have really, higher polling rate and better responsiveness versus the other ones that don't. Because when I'm flicking and then I'm micro adjusting, when I'm micro adjusting that part, if a mouse doesn't have a really high kind of low, I guess, delay, I can feel that it just doesn't react fast enough. It doesn't aim or it doesn't micro adjust as fast enough for me. And that's how I can feel if a mouse is really good or bad. And in this test, that's where this mouse just like completely shocked me, right? Like when I'm micro adjusting, it feels as good as the Razer's, which is just really incredible, right? So that's why I put it on the polling tester to test if it actually has 8K, and it really does have 8K. So the performance and the responsiveness and the sensor or the lack of a lag, I guess, is just amazing on this mouse. Like I can't speak enough volumes of how responsive this mouse is. Now, the other features about this mouse that do matter for a lot of people, I would say, is kind of the software. And then the other thing about the software is also the kind of 8K dongle. So it comes with the 8K dongle, right? Then it also has a 1K dongle, which it comes with it right here. And then it also comes with this, which is essentially a docking station that you can use with the cable that it includes in it. So essentially, I noticed that when you have the 8K, you have to like update your mouse firmware to be capable of 8K. Now that whole firmware update process, they have all the whole entire instruction manual on MetKey, so it has all the instructions there. I just think the manual itself could have been written a little bit more clear in the sense of like, if you read the instruction manual backwards, it makes more sense than reading it from up to down. Don't ask me why, but just know if you're trying to update it, read it backwards. Besides that, after you get your firmware updated and get the software running, it's honestly pretty self-explanatory. We'll dive into the software. All right, so I'll talk about the software. So we have the battery indicator right there. Then moving on, we can kind of, assign different things if we want to each of our buttons, but the debounce is the most important thing. I set it to 1. And this says how many seconds you don't move until it kind of shuts off. I probably should set that a little higher, to be honest. Then we have the DPI stages. You can change it, but I have 3. I typically play at 3200. And then you can choose your different sensor modes and then your kind of polling rate. So I like playing 8K. Then you have kind of angle snapping, motion, and ripple control. Then you can set macros, and then you can also change what the LED shows on your actual 8K dongle. So I'll have it to just show the battery, so it will change color when the battery changes. But yeah, honestly, I definitely do recommend this mouse. This mouse is pretty incredible. The responsiveness is great, and I didn't even think this shape existed. I didn't even think I would like the shape, and I really do, and I definitely perform well. So I could definitely see myself using a lot of this mouse in the future. But obviously, I do have a lot of mouse to use, but this is definitely one of my favorite ones for sure. So if you're not looking to spend a lot of money, I definitely do recommend this mouse.